Bonjour. So we're going to video you today as well. Seb's going to do it. So you're going to be famous and on Twitter and stuff. We're going to record you. Don't know whether anyone's done that before. Just let people see what goes on before a game of football, or a big game of football. Alright, Seb?
Aujourd'hui, c'est nous qui allons vous filmer, pour une fois.
He's filming. I was going to film you on this, but there's no battery in it.
Ça allait être moi, mais this is your first match against PSG Saint-Germain. Does it mean anything special to you?
To be honest, I haven't really thought about it that much. Do you prefer me English accent or me English-French accent? I haven't really thought about it that much. Obviously, we had a really tough game at home against Valencia on the weekend, and you know the priority was getting you know a positive result out of that game. And I know we left it late, but we managed to get it. You know what I felt was a deserved 3 points. So you know in the next coming days, the sort of focus will switch to Paris.
Déjà-tu entendu parler de la rivalité entre l'OM et Paris à l'époque où tu jouais encore en Angleterre?
Which rivalry is similar?
No. Had you already really heard about the rivalry between OM and PSG while you were in England?
Yeah, you know it's well known. Obviously, the two biggest clubs in France, two you know massive football clubs. You know, I'm fortunate to play for the bigger one. You know, the one that's won the European Cup, the one that's you know got the dominant sort of history. Albeit, you know, at this time, Paris have got an incredible amount of wealth, and you know, have not been shy in spending that. You know, I think all the players are aware of the classic and how you know important it is to the fans of each football club. It was important for us to be in a positive mind frame heading into that game. You know, and thankfully as I say, we got a positive result against Valencia and to give us that mindset. But you know, form and results go out the window in this kind of game, and it's generally the biggest men's the biggest you know characters and the team that wants it the most that wins the game. You know, it's a derby game, you know, for all, but geographical purposes, you know, it's the biggest game in France. It's probably the biggest game in Europe next weekend. So yeah, I think you know this football club's looking forward to it, and you know I'm certainly looking forward to my first.
Vous allez retrouver aussi Joey, un compatriote qui va faire ses débuts en Ligue 1. C'est une motivation supplémentaire pour vous de retrouver David Beckham?
No, not really. You know, Paris have a number of star players, you know, a number of big name players that we all know about. They don't need mentioning again at this press conference. And you know, as big as a star as Beckham is off the pitch, you know, he's one of the ones that realistically, you know, don't put the fear of God into it anymore, you know, like he used to when he played in the Premier League. You know, no disrespect to him, but you know, you know, if he does manage to play for Paris, will not be probably the main concern for us as a defensive unit. You know, as I say, Paris have got some wonderfully gifted players, and I think you know it'd be naive of us to focus that on David Beckham.
Joey, est-ce que c'est vrai que tu as entre guillemets un peu souffert de la comparaison avec Beckham par la presse anglaise, qui a voulu faire pendant longtemps un peu le feuilleton du gentleman et playboy Beckham, et toi au contraire le feuilleton du bad boy? Est-ce que c'est vrai que tu as souffert de ça?
It's the English media, you know. It is polar opposite, you know. Probably if you asked an Englishman, I'm probably the exact opposite of everything that David Beckham is. But that doesn't worry me. Actually, I see it as a massive compliment. you know, Beckham's his own man, and I'm my own man, and you know what the media make of it is what the media make of it. You know, it doesn't define you as a person, and probably you know, we see the English media all the time. Well, I certainly do, and you know, it's not much to get caught up about. I mean, you know, one of the favourite of our sons is Gaza, and you know, they're incredibly positive about Gaza and then incredibly negative about Gaza, and look at the situation, you know, sadly Paul's ended up in. You know, and it's not solely to blame, the English media, but you know, I think they've had certainly a massive influence on it, you know, with the whole incident around his wife and so on and so forth. And you know, that's what can happen sometimes if you start believing in your own hype and start believing, you know, what the media say about you. You know, you can send you insane, as proven not only by Paul but by a number of players over the years. You know, they start to believe what the papers say about them, and you know, when that's positive, it's great, and when it's negative, they can't handle it. For me, it's generally on the most in England being negative, so I've just had to get on with it. And you know, it'd be great if they wrote a lot of positive pieces about you the way they do about sort of Bram Beckham, but you know, that's not my way, and you know, I don't envy his position, or I don't envy the amount of media intrusion he has in his life on a daily basis. For me, you know, I'm quite happy with the hand I've got at the minute, and you know, fair play to David if him and his family enjoy that.
Bon, vous avez vécu les deux premiers classicos en tant que spectateur. Comment tu avais vécu ces deux matchs et comment tu avais ressenti l'ambiance, notamment au stade Vélodrome? Tu avais senti la ferveur autour de ces matchs?
He said when
You followed the first two
Yeah.
Classicos this year as a spectator. How did you find the atmosphere and everything that was around it?
Well, I didn't see much of the second game because there was a problem back in England with my grandfather at the time, so I was totally tuned out of the game. The first game I sat with the Marseille fans and was able to sample the atmosphere and get a feel for it. You know, that was the game in the Velodrome, and you sort of know. I mean, you know, I'm old enough and wise enough to know what this kind of game involves. You know, I've been fortunate enough to play in a number of derbies over the years. You know, whether it be, you know, Man City, Man United, Newcastle, Sunderland, you know, QPR, Chelsea last year. You know, so you know what it's about. I mean, you know what you're going to go into, and you know, there's no atmosphere that can put me off my game. You know, I'm not worried about the crowd or anything. I mean, you know, for me, it's becomes quite normal, certainly in England, to have the crowd baying against you. You know, it's run of the mill for me. So, you know, it's just business as usual. You know, the fact that it's Paris Saint-Germain, the fact that they're sitting top of the league, the fact that, you know, they're coming off a defeat against Sochaux, the fact that, you know, they've got a Champions League game. You know, in the minds that they, you know, that's obviously a major focus for that team, is to progress in the Champions League. All these little things, you know, you're sort of aware of, but you know that when you turn up, there's going to be, you know, 11 people on the pitch. You know, they're going to be wanting to win the game as much as we are. So yeah, it's difficult for me to talk about because, you know, I can find myself getting, you know, ahead of myself and start talking about what's going to happen and what's, you know, and the reality of it is nothing happens in this conference. You know, nothing happens in this room. Nothing happens really in training, you know, between now and the game. You know, it's a case of making sure that, you know, come 9 o'clock Sunday night that your head, you know, is in one place and that your emotions are in another. Because if you let your emotions run your head, certainly for me, that doesn't bode well. You know, last time that happened, I ended up with a 12-match ban. So it's a case of just keeping in focus what's achievable, and you know, it'll be a good week of training this week and trying to keep the camp happy and smiley, you know, because, you know, come, as I said, Sunday at 9 o'clock, it's business. You know, it's a massive game in the context of the championship. You know, and it's a massive game in this country, and as I say, you know, it's the biggest biggest club match in Europe next weekend.
Joey, you're 5 points behind PSG. Do you think you can still be champion?
He beat everyone to it. There, it was quite quick, quite sharp. Yeah, why not? You know, there's been a lot of twists and turns in the title sort of race already, and you know, I don't think we certainly, you know, haven't given up on winning the championship, and you know, I don't think Lyon have. You know, we're not of the mentality that of, you know, shit, sort of PSG have won this, and we weren't at that 2 weeks ago. You know, we were also focused on doing what we had to do. There's no point us sort of thinking about winning the league if, you know, we sort of losing home games to Nancy and drawing at Evian. It's far too far off in the distant future when you've got not the strongest form going into, you know, a tough run of games. But you know, these are season-defining games. You know, if we go to Paris and take maximum points, and then manage to do the same in the cup on the Wednesday night, you know, all of a sudden there's a different spin on the table. You know, we're sitting, you know, 2 points off them, and they're out of a major competition. And all of a sudden everyone's looking around saying, well, hang on a minute, Paris' season's in turmoil, because then they'd be playing Valencia. With, you know, the Valencia game's not dead and buried by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you know, they're in a commanding position, but without Ibrahimovic in the second leg, and you know, 2-1 lead in Europe's not game over by any stretch. So you know, the pressure then comes on them. You know, it's a massive period for them as a football club, and it's, you know, it's an equally big period for us as a football club. You know, I don't think I'm talking about anything that no one in this room or no one in either football club knows about. So, you know, we can only control what we can do, and that's our preparation leading up to the game, and that's our attitude in the game. You know, and I think what the game on Saturday evening showed was the togetherness of this team. You know, we don't have the superstars, regardless of what any player in our dressing room thinks about themselves. You know, we don't have superstars at the level of the Paris Saint-Germain players. You know, they've got some fantastic players, as I've said before. You know, if we had the players that they had, obviously, you know, the pressure is a different kind of pressure. But we've got to be together as a team. If we go there as individuals, which we have been in certain games over the course of this season, it won't bode so well for us, you know, because they have better individuals than us. Now, if we go as a team and we're together, then we have a hell of a chance. You know, this football club showed when we've gone and we've dug team performances out, what a good side we are. When we play as individuals, you know, we look as mediocre as the sides near the bottom. You know, proving on the fact that when we've gone as individuals, we've lost to them sides. So yeah, you know, we have to pull together, and I think certainly in the last few months, you know, the coach has done a fantastic job of generating that spirit, of pulling the lads together, of making us all aware that, you know, we live and die as a team. And, you know, no matter what anyone says about the performance, when you score winners in the 90-plus minute against, you know, Montpellier and against, you know, Valencians, it shows you about the character we have in the squad. You know, and that character is what we're going to need in Paris on both occasions, you know, Sunday and Wednesday night.
Ça, et est-ce que vous avez une explication?
Okay, you've been playing not quite so well. Do you agree with that? And if you agree with it, do you have an explanation?
No. You know, it happens in the course of a season. Sometimes, you know, you play really well and the team become really reliant upon you, and then you have games like I did against Nancy, you know, where you know, you don't play so well, and it's a normal part of it. I mean, the one thing you don't do is start changing everything. I mean, I've played elite level football for over 10 years now. It's not something, I know my job. It's the same way, all of yous in here, if you've got that level of experience, know what you're writing. It's my profession, it's my trade. I sort of, know what I'm doing. And it was good for me to get, over the suspension. I mean, I have an opinion on whether it was sending off or not, but it's probably not prudent anymore. That is in the past and it's gone. And as an Englishman who's used to it taking a lot more physical contact to get a yellow card, it was strange to get 2 for something I didn't deem that. And also on Saturday again. I mean, I've been given a yellow card for. I'm still scratching my head as to what. But I have to adjust. This is France. The referees referee the games differently, and I have to adjust accordingly. And I think on the whole, I've been able to do that. From a playing perspective, realistically, I don't. When I first came here, everyone was talking, "Oh, Zlatan this," and me the opposite side of it, and I was quick to put it out and say, "Look, I don't know what anyone thinks of me, but." We're not the same player. He's in a total different stratosphere to me as a footballer. What he brings to the table and what I bring to the table are total opposite. Hence the reason he's on about 350 grand a week, and I'm on nowhere near that. And they paid millions for him, over 20 odd million, and I came on loan from a team who's sitting bottom of the Premier League. We're in a different field completely. But the one thing I do bring, which, I don't think he's able to match, and is I play for the team. I've always played for the team, and, in some games I've had to sacrifice things I want to do, take corners, take set plays, run forward. In this team I'm not able to do that because, I have a job within the team. There's a job that the coach wants me to do, and, that's not the pretty stuff. That's sometimes tracking runners and getting your foot in and breaking play up, and I'd love to be running forward and doing step overs. I'd probably embarrass myself by doing them, but I'd love to be running forward and taking shots. But my role in the team's not that, and I'm one of the players in this side that has to do the ugly stuff, and I quite enjoy doing it, and I think I'm quite good at it. So whilst there is a position and the coach still wants me to do that, then that's what I'm about. I play for the team. I play for the shirt. I don't play for myself. And it's great when people say you play great and people write nice things about you, but it's part of the job. It's, people are gonna say you're playing one way or the other, and no disrespect to yous, but if I start believing what yous think about football, I am truly fucked, because yous know a lot less than what I know.
Ok. Non, tout ce que vous écrivez, je suis baisé.
Can I just clear it up, because it sounds a bit aggressive from me at the end of that. What I was basically saying was, if I was to listen to, no disrespect to yous, but yous are all probably decent footballers in amateur terms. I mean, none of yous are the top level professional athletes. I can see that. Some of yous look like it, some of yous don't. And what I was basically saying was, obviously as journalists, if I started, judging your journalistic pieces and was writing that's a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, obviously you're gonna be happy if I'm saying it's a great article and it's a 9 out of 10. But if I'm saying on the opposite end, it's a crap article and it's a 3 out of 10, somewhere along the line you've got to sit there and go, what the fuck do you know? And I'm sort of like that with yous. When yous give me, a 9, not that I've never had one, but if, for instance, you're to write that I've played really well, and if I should know how I've played. I shouldn't need to read the paper to know I've got a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. I mean, I generally know what I've done well and what I haven't done well on a football pitch, and your own harshest critic. So yeah, it wasn't being aggressive. It was just saying, what the fuck do you know, really?
Donc, mon intention n'était pas d'être agressif, ce que je voulais dire.
What about your future with Marseille? Have you already starting talking with QPR and Marseille? Do you feel like staying in Marseille? When will you start talking?
I don't know. I'm always talking. it's not. I'm not really focused on it. You know, I'm really enjoying what it's about, and you know, there's more important things than what I'm doing in the future. You know, that we're still, you know, in a cup competition, and we've still got ambitions of winning the title. You know, all that other bullshit can wait. You know, I'm not really one to become distracted or bothered by it. You know, I've got a 2-year contract in England after this season ends. You know, I'm very well paid. You know, I don't really give a, you know, I don't really give it a thought. If I'm honest, it's, you know, I don't envisage myself playing for QPR again. You know, and I would love to stay at this football club, but that's a conversation for another day. I mean, you know, everyone asks me at every opportunity, you know, all the fans, are you staying? I don't want to go anywhere else. You know, I've sort of found, you know, a football club that believed in me when not many did, and you know, for the rest of my sort of, you know, time here, you know, I just want to repay that. And as I say, you know that comes with putting performances in on the pitch. That doesn't say, well, I'm gonna need, you know, you to give me security on a contract. You know, the club's shown enough faith in me, and when the time's right, we'll sit down and discuss that. Yeah, I do miss playing in the Premier League. You know, it's somewhere you've played, and you know, I still watch a lot of Premier League football, and you know, for a professional footballer, you know, you want to challenge yourself against the best players in the world. You know, to not being disrespectful to France, but you know, generally when you're playing in the Premier League, you know who you're coming up against on a Saturday or a Sunday is, you know, an international from whatever country they're from. You know, most of the time in France, and this is going to sound arrogant, but it's not meant to be that way, is, you know, I don't know who I'm playing against until the game kicks off. I don't, and that's not being disrespectful to the players. It's just that the media exposure of the mid to lower teams in this league is not, you know, what it is in England. You know, the exposure of all the teams in the Premier League in England. You know, you'll know who's playing for the bottom sides as much as you do who's playing for the top sides. You know, in France, it's generally only the top 10 sides that get a lot of media exposure. And that can be difficult because sometimes you turn up and playing against players who you haven't got a clue what they do, and you've got to go off videos that the coaches and the coaching staff show you, and it's never the same. You know, you never get the same feel for a player as what you do having watched them in the flesh. So what I've found is myself watching an awful lot of French football, trying to, you know, study players. And, you know, as I say, in England I grew up watching these players for years, and then was fortunate enough to play against them, and then, you know, had this experience backlog. You know, so in France I'm sort of doing a crash course in learning the players in the league, you know, and you know, as I say, it's everything's, you know, everything I've experienced so far has gone in the bank, you know, experience-wise. I mean, that's whether, you know, stadiums you've travelled to, which can be notoriously difficult stadiums, which in England you know all about. You know there's potential. You know, at Stoke City, it's not going to be an easy game, even though they're not the greatest football side. It's going to be a tough game. You know, and going to Sochaux and places like that, you know, I now know that. You know, I now know that that's a tricky place to go to. You know, whereas before I sort of went in there thinking we should win here. So yeah, you know, you're learning all the time. You know, you're learning about the culture of this league. You know, you're learning about referees who want to be, you know, good. Some who want to be fair referees, and some who want to be as big as the players. And you know, you've got to learn how to manage them. That's all. This is all part of modern day football.
Well, sur mon avenir...
I'm making them purposely long for him because he never told me to keep them short today, and he generally tells me to keep the answers short.
Donc,
merci beaucoup.
Au revoir.
I think I wanted to tell you to keep it short because I knew you wouldn't.
Pardon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hello, everyone.
Obviamente que... Lumière.
Tu l'éteins pas, hein.
Manu.
Je m'en mis.